Commission for November 17, 2014 to order. Roll call, Commissioner Witcher.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Littlefield. Not here. Commissioner White. Here. Commissioner Hale. Not here. Commissioner Schuline. Commissioner Jenkins. Not here. Commissioner George. And Commissioner Yonkel. Not here. Okay, we do have 5 available, so we do have a quorum. Next, we'd like to have a motion concerning the minutes of the October 20th, 2014 meeting.
I will move approval with the correction that in item, see if I can find it here, item 5B, it reads, consider application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from Majesty Health Services. That should be from Nash Construction. So with that correction, I'd move approval of the minutes.
Second. Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Witcher to approve the minutes as modified in paragraph 5B, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Any talk on the minutes? Okay. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. We have, well, there we go. Thank you very much. Okay, now we go on to report on taxi license and record service, which will be presented in January. Then there's no items on the consent docket, so we go on now to item 5A. Brad Johnson, owner in Integrity Limousine LLC, Piedmont, Oklahoma 73078, to consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from in Integrity Limousine LLC to operate 5 vehicles in limousine service. Anybody here to speak on this item? Okay. There's no real need to if you don't need to. Okay, can I have staff input?
All right, you've got a complete application before you. We're recommending approval of the application as submitted.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5A?
I move we approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Schuline
I'll second.
and a second by Commissioner Witcher. Any discussion on item 5A? Okay. We have a motion to approve item 5A from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Thanks. Item 5B, United Multi-Service and Supply LLC, doing business as United Taxi Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73107, to consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from United Multi-Service and Supply LLC, doing business as United Taxi, to operate 50 vehicles in taxi service. Do we have anybody here to speak on item 5B? Okay, can we have staff input?
All right, you've got a complete application before you. If there are any questions relative to this color scheme, I just want to point out that on page 2 of the report, they've indicated that their vehicles will operate using basically a black monochrome paint scheme, but they will have a 6-inch wide red and a 6-inch wide yellow stripe that runs in the middle of the vehicle from front to back. That'll be its basic distinguishing mark, in addition to being labeled on the doors. So you've got a complete application before you, and we're recommending approval of the application as submitted.
Thank you. Do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
I move to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Schuline.
And I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Witcher. Do we have any discussion on item 5B? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner Schuline, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Item 5C, Jonathan Hussel, P.E., Tetra Tech, Inc., Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73102, to consider a request to, 1, remove 6 metered parking spaces on the east side of North Robinson Avenue from approximately 140 feet north to 272 feet north of the north curb line of West Sheridan Avenue. 2, establish a passenger loading zone on the east side of North Robinson Avenue, approximately 160 feet north to 250 feet north of the north curb line of West Sheridan Avenue. 3, remove 5 metered parking spaces on the north side of West Sheridan Avenue from approximately 80 feet to 190 feet east of the east curb line of North Robinson Avenue. And 4, relocate 1 reserved parking space for the physically disabled on the north side of West Sheraton Avenue from approximately 46 feet to 80 feet east of the east curb line of North Robinson to approximately 85 feet to 125 feet east of the east curb line of North Robinson Avenue. You have anybody here to speak on item 5C? Okay. Do we have one of your forms here, sir?
Yes.
Okay, and is this also yours too?
That is not mine.
Okay. There was another one, okay. Okay, can I have your name and your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Yes, Jonathan Heisel, work with Tetra Tech. My address is 1805 Council Bluff Drive, Edmond, Oklahoma. And I just wanted to request acceptance of this proposal. Driveway, we have visited with Devon. We've visited with the DOKC and gotten their comments. We've also visited with the Public Works Department and made some revisions to the previous layout of this and addressed all comments. I also recently submitted a letter to Mr. Secretary Chai on a revision to that letter, and I think you all have that regarding request for 24-hour passenger loading zone for the OPUBCO building that's going to be on Robinson there. That'll be an entry, and they will have security monitoring that loading zone. And then I think that's it. Answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I have staff input, please?
Okay, you got the report before you. Basically what it is, it's a request to make some modifications to the on-street parking as it currently exists on Sheridan, on the north side of Sheridan, and on the east side of Robinson, adjacent to a building that was formerly the Century Center. This particular request is to, on the Sheridan Avenue side, is to relocate 1 reserve space for the physically disabled so they could build driveways that basically wrap around it to a lay-by or basically an off-site loading area on the north side of Sheridan. And then on the Robinson Avenue side of things, they're proposing to build basically 2 encroachments into the parking spaces to better delineate the limits of a passenger loading zone. And as Mr. Heisel had indicated, their request now is, in our staff report, we recommended that the loading zone just be enforced during regular daytime and weekday hours of operation. They're requesting that that passenger loading zone basically be a permanent feature, so it's never available for parking. It's always just for passenger loading purposes, because I believe he's indicated that the primary user is going to be the, I guess, OPUBCO's offices, and they'll be open to, basically, they're continuously open. So action on the item will be at the discretion of the Commission.
All right. Do we have a motion concerning item 5C?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the applicant's request, including the 24-hour dedicated loading zone on Sheridan.
Okay. We have a motion to approve item 5C with the request of the 24 hours. We have a second.
Second.
Second from Commissioner George. Do we have any other discussion on item 5C? Yes, sir.
I'd like to understand that, Stuart, there's the work on Sheridan that removes about 6 parking spaces on Sheridan, and then it removes all of the on-street parking along Robinson, and then it removes spaces on Main Street also?
No, there are no changes to Main Street being proposed in this application. The loss in spaces on Robinson Avenue are due to basically the encroachments that are built into the street, and then the area, and then parking spaces in between will be converted just to function as a passenger loading zone.
Okay, so
there are a few
taxi
spaces.
stand is on Robinson.
Right, and that remains unchanged. Because on Robinson, starting from Sheridan heading north, you've got 1 reserved space for the disabled. Then you've got immediately due north of that, you've got curb space set aside for sufficient for 2 parking spaces, but it's assigned as a taxi loading zone. It's an open taxi stand. And then from there you had 1-hour metered parking. What this is going to do is it's going to it'll restructure most of the remaining 1-hour metered parking. There'll be a few spaces left to the north.
There will be 2 metered parking spaces left north of the loading zone?
3.
3, okay.
Yeah, he's saying it's one south and two north.
It's a total of 3 spaces.
Well, just a comment that, at least in the perception of visitors to downtown, we're continuing to whittle away at the on-street parking that's available, and we're liable to get back to those days where people don't come downtown because they think there's no place to park.
So where's the nearest garage park into this area? Is it Santa Fe?
Well,
Look at this.
Yeah, for the most part, well, the nearest public garages will be the Santa Fe garage, and then, of course, it's a few blocks to the west, there's the Sheridan Walker garage.
Yeah, this is about right in between the two of them.
Right.
Kind of.
So there's a parking garage across Main Street. Is that available to public?
First National Center parking garage, is that not available to the public? Isn't that just across the street?
That I honestly don't know. I mean, I've not had opportunity to use that particular garage. I'm just not able to answer your question. We can find out for you.
Is that the one just to the west? Is that the one you're talking about?
North of the Sheraton Century Center, right? Isn't that the...
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, come on up, sir.
The Century Center is also public, and they've got 800 spaces approximately in there.
Century Center parking is public?
They've got two spaces below and 2 above. It's kind of the middle portion that we're talking about modifying.
So just out of curiosity, is that owned by your client? The parking?
Sir, if I could have your name and your address, and when you're done, just fill that out later. Okay. Name and address.
Steve Hurst, 3901 Red Deer Crossing in Edmond, and I represent the ownership group, so I can answer some of those questions. The Century Center garage has 800 spaces. It has 200 per floor, 2 subterranean and 2 on the 3rd and 4th floor. It is owned by Copta.
Okay.
Think of this as a hamburger. We own the meat of the sandwich.
Okay.
They own the bun.
And so if it's owned by Copta, it's available to the public?
Correct.
To park there?
Correct.
Okay.
Our clients, our tenants, will have some parking spaces, just like parkers in any of the other garages, that they contract for through Copta, but they're not 100% reserved spaces, if that makes sense. Copta traditionally oversells their garages at a 33 or 30% factor. So if it was 800 spaces, they would add on an additional 30% and sell those. In this particular garage, because of the type of clients or tenants that we have, it's going to be shrunk to a 20% load factor. So those 800 spaces become 800 plus another 240 or so. That's available.
Is there any opportunity to have these passenger loading zones in the garage?
No.
Okay.
No. No, and especially for a Pubco, so important. They have people coming in and out quite quickly every day, whether that be photographers or news people or people delivering classified requests or whatever the case may be. That's really integral to what they're doing. Originally, we had tried to get a circle drive, and through concerns of the city, we backed off that and did this laydown. The spaces on Sheridan is for Mahogany Steakhouse. They're moving a new steakhouse downtown, and that's going to be valet, much like you have across the street with the Cold Court Hotel. It's going to be almost exactly the same configuration as they have.
Okay, any other questions? All right. All right, thank you, sir. If you just fill that out.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. All right, so we're talking about item 5C. Any other talk on item 5C? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5C from Commissioner Schuline, including the 24-hour loading zone, seconded by Commissioner George. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Okay, we go to item 5D, Jacqueline Bass, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73104, to consider a request to eliminate the weekday 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. parking restriction on the north side of Northeast 16th Street between North Lindsay Avenue and North Phillips Avenue. Do you have anybody here to speak on this item?
Yes.
Sir, if I could have your name and your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is James Tyler. I live at 701 Northeast 16th. And my concern is that in two-part, the petition is unclear. There are 31 names on this petition, and you only have to have, and then there's only 22 maximum. And of those, only 9 are owners, and 10 of all addresses on the petition are not on the OCAO website. Also on the agenda is stated that 20 out of 22 residents in the required petition canvass voting in favor of the request. However, I've found that on the petition itself, plainly there are 4 where addresses and names and residents that do not fall under the favor or request where the property is either vacant or the signature is not obtained. And one of those properties is mine. On the petition, my house has a star for approval when clearly on the petition that we signed, there is a check for disapproval. And there is 4 others houses on that street that have the same thing, and only 2 were counted as disapproval. Now, where they came up with 22 of these names, because it's just unclear, it's disorganized. If you look at the front page of my thing here, I tried to make sense of it, and then down at the bottom it has how it works. 5 of these houses are not on the petition at all, and 4 houses voted twice, having 2 residents in each voted. 2 residents voting twice separately. To me, I just don't understand how this works. How the votes were tallied and what qualifies a vote. It's not on there. And secondly, I believe this is a self-serving act by Ms. Bass. She cannot, or she is a tenant there on next door to me, and there are too many cars on the property to be managed. Her house, her driveway is not a shared driveway. It's 2 driveways butted next to each other, no wider than any other driveway in the neighborhood. There are just too many people. There's 3 residents on that piece of property, and there's too many cars for her to manage. Now, she wants to lift the parking restrictions, but this is parking restrictions only for 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. All other times, you can park freely on the street. Now, it just seems to me that this is more of a property management issue than the neighborhood issue. If you vote yes for this, I think you're effectively cutting off this particular street from the rest of them. All the other streets have parking restrictions in place, and this one, because one tenant can't manage their property, does not. To me, that doesn't sound very fair. And also, the neighborhood's on the rise, and it's coming back, and we just don't need prospective homeowners coming to streets with tons of cars on them. And not to mention that the Oklahoma Medical Center is still there and will be there for years. And students are notorious for, trying to get free parking. And that is still going on, and it always will be going on. That was put in place for that reason and that reason. And I think it just needs to be kept in place so that the neighborhood can thrive. I think that's all I really have to say. I mean, it's all in the thing, and if you could read it, that'd be great. All right?
Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have staff input for item 5D, please?
Well, I'll be happy to answer any questions. With respect to the petitioning process, the city doesn't make any distinction between property owners or whether they are tenants or anything along that line. And if we had representation, because when we review petitions, we review them for completeness with respect to making sure that if there is a resident that signed in favor, we just check addresses. We don't verify ownership. We don't verify tenants.
Right.
It's up to the applicant to make sure that what they present is a fair and honest petition of the area.
But if you look at that petition, there are 17 names on there twice.
But we wouldn't count them twice.
They're on there twice.
Well, but I mean, with respect to counting them on the petition, they don't appear twice, because if that was the case, then you would be indicating there were like 34 people that signed
But
in
there's
favor,
also
but we didn't.
one name that's on there that doesn't live on that street anymore, and I can vouch for that. He's a
But would
tenant
they-
700 Northeast 16th, does not live there anymore.
I think we're
Okay.
trying to get staff input, and then we'll be able to have other questions and discussion
Sure.
after we make a motion.
But the application that we got from Ms. Bass indicated, she'd circulated petition. She's interested in lifting this particular parking restriction, which has been in place since the latter part of the 70s. We'd recommended approval based on support from the neighborhood, but action on the item is always at the discretion of the commission. So I'll be happy to answer any other questions that any member of the commission or the public may have.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion concerning item 5?
I've got a question real quick on that. Why was it set up that way to begin with from the 70s with no parking during the day?
Well, we typically try and research these things in order to get as much information as possible in order to provide you with like a historical perspective. But we've got a gap in our records that for the latter part of the 70s where we don't have commission information available. So just knowing from experience that there's a lot of restrictions, as the public has mentioned, that there are a bunch of parking restrictions in the area that were geared towards addressing like parking nuisances attributed to like students, faculty, patients, or whatever at the Health Sciences Center area. So presumably a lot of the restrictions in this area, even with this being just to the north and a little bit to the west of the Health Sciences area, not a stretch to presume that these restrictions are probably related to similar ones that were instituted in the area.
Okay. Can we have a motion concerning item 5D, please?
I'm going to move disapproval of the motion, of the item.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second. We have a motion to disapprove item 5D from Commissioner Witcher with a second from Commissioner White. Do we have any talk on this item?
Stuart, to your understanding, that's correct, that the parking restriction is from 8 to 5, and you can park there 5 to...
That is correct, yes.
thank you.
The signs state very clearly that it's in effect Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have any other talk on item 5D?
I guess the applicant is not here to say why they want this removed. I mean,
No. There's nobody else wanting to speak on the
Okay.
item. Okay. Any other talk on item 5D? All right. We have a motion from Commissioner Witcher to disapprove item 5D, seconded by Commissioner White. Can I have your votes, please? Okay. Item is disapproved.
Thank you.
Now we go on over to 5E. Kenneth Gillespie, P.E., MacArthur Associates Consultants, LLC, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73116, to consider a request for a mid-block pedestrian crossing and a pedestrian hybrid beacon on Northwestern Avenue, approximately 160 feet to the north of Pasados Drive. Do we have anybody here to speak on item 5E? Yes, sir. If I could have your name and your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
That's Kenneth Gillespie, MacArthur Associated Consultants, 3033 Northwest 63rd Street. This project, this beacon and crossing is part of the improvement project for the Western Avenue from 178th Street to north to city limits. Part of this project, we're rebuilding the 5-lane section in front of the school as it is and improving the 2-lane section on up to 192nd Street to a 4-lane roadway and extending sidewalks all the way between 178th Street and 192nd Street. The project is ODOT funded through ACOG, and during the review process with ODOT, they have requested that we either put this beacon in at this crossing because it's across from the school, or remove the pedestrian crossing altogether. So we're here to ask your approval and answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have staff input, please?
Well, you've got all our comments before you. As noted by Mr. Gillespie, this is being primarily put in, or being requested to serve as a school crossing on Western Avenue. So action on the item will be at the discretion of the commission.
Can we have a motion concerning item 5E, please?
Move approval.
We have a motion from Commissioner George to approve item 5E. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5E from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Okay, we go to item 5F. Patrick Ryan, Council Member, Ward 8, to consider a recommendation to the Oklahoma City Council on an ordinance relating to motor vehicles and traffic, amending Chapter 32 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code 2010 by amending Section 479 of Article 14 regarding bicycles riding on roadways, bicycle routes, bicycle lanes, and bicycle paths. Councilman Ryan's not here. Can we have staff input, please?
Okay, in simplest terms, the draft ordinance before you, or the city council is seeking the commission's input on a draft ordinance submitted by Council Member Ryan. As proposed, he's wanting to make a change to ordinances to, I guess, more closely mirror state law, whereby a bicycle rider cannot ride basically on the skip line in between lanes of traffic moving in the same direction. This would be something that you might observe during like a congested traffic period where the motor vehicles aren't working, but a bike rider may opt to basically pass in between active lanes of traffic. It's just seeking to make that not a legal thing and to mirror state law. And the other change would be to, in state law, there is a requirement that motor vehicle operators give way by providing at least 3 feet of clearance between themselves and people on bicycles. What this does is it makes it a reciprocal arrangement whereby bicycle riders also may, strive to maintain a 3-foot clearance between themselves and motor vehicle operators. So the action before you today is to consider a recommendation on the draft ordinance to be returned to the City Council.
Okay, can we have a motion concerning item 5F?
Well, it certainly seems like a safety factor that's put in motion here, so I would move approval of the ordinance change.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5F from Commissioner George. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Commissioner White. Do we have any discussion on this item? Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, is this, I know, it strikes me as this kind of discouraging bicyclists and bicycling in the city. I mean, it seems logical to me that bicyclists shouldn't drive through the traffic, but is it excessive? Is this going overboard a little bit?
Well, it's my understanding that state law already does not allow it. It requires bicyclists to operate their vehicle just like a regular motor vehicle, which does not allow that to happen. You're in a lane. It's your lane. You can't go in between lanes. So that's already in state law. And the fact that the state law requires 36 inches for a vehicle operator, if you're passing a bicycle in a shared lane, you got to give them 3 feet. What this is also saying is, well, now the bicyclist also has to do the same thing, basically keeping it from even passing on the right. If a car is going slow or something, even passing it on the right, if there's not enough room for it to clearly operate within a 3 feet zone, then the bicyclist would not be able to go into that closeness of a car. And I believe what they're asking is to make it clear to the bicycle operators, they have a responsibility to be in their lane and stay in their lane. And if they're going to want to share a lane, they need to give the 3 feet like a vehicle operator has to give the 3 feet. So all this is, from what I understand, all this is taking current state requirements and making it very clear in the city ordinances. Now, I talked with Councilman Ryan. One of the things here on the Traffic Commission, when we started talking about bike routes, or the bicycle plan, which included hundreds of miles of bike routes, and then the approval of bike routes and the marking of them and all that, the shared road, and then if a roadway that's on the bike plan gets modified, that they include the proper bike route lane and all that. Part of that piece was education to the public about these kinds of things, that you do have a responsibility to share the road with bicyclists, that they have a right to be on the road. Those kind of things was our concern 5 years ago. As we've been briefed several times, what we're hearing is that there's been a funding issue in that piece of that whole puzzle that we asked for when we approved the bike routes, that they just haven't been able to go ahead and do the public education as much. So I've asked Councilman Ryan to maybe ask City Council, well, then let's use some city money. If we can't get federal money or state money, whoever was going to pay for that education piece, which were newspaper articles, TV commercials, those kind of things, to say share the road and what that means, that maybe the city now, we're at a point where the city now needs to go ahead and fund some sort of public education. So he's going to ask City Council to see if they can free up some funds to maybe move that along. So that's what he's asking for here, is for it to be a reciprocal, to make it just clearer to the bicycle operators to be able to, that they have a responsibility also. Okay, hold on one second. Did you have something, sir?
Just to kind of add on to that, I think what I've seen as a bicyclist, it's relatively prevalent, is the bicyclist going in between a car and the curb. And so it seems fair to make it clear that that a bicycle is a two-axle vehicle and it needs to conduct itself just the same way a car would. But I'd be interested do we have any idea what the citation will be, what the cost of this would be if it goes in ordinance?
Well, it'd be just like if it was a regular motored, a regular motorcycle. If a motorcycle was to have done that, there's a citation for that, correct?
Correct. I'm not sure what it is. But sure.
What the cost would be
Right.
by going to court or whatever.
Exactly.
But there's a citation for that.
I guess that's, if there's, I suppose that if that's, I don't know what the magic number is, if that's $30, $40, then that's a good signal to the bicyclist to don't do that again. But if it's, $180 or something like that, that seems a little bit severe.
Okay. Sir, if I could have your name, your address, and make sure to fill out one of the forms when you're done.
Chad Meisenberg, 10400 Cheshire Court, Yukon, Oklahoma. But I'm here on the behalf of ODOT. We are finishing up a transportation enhancements grant with Randy from planning at the city's office. It looks like we're going to have about $420,000 to put towards this program, just so FYI. We're working right now with the feds to see if we can utilize all the funding. There was $90,000 to do it, but the project came in under, so we gave them that additional amount. So if we can utilize all that, that's just information for the panel.
So what you're saying is they actually budgeted $90,000 for the education piece, but then the whole project came in under, so right now
the
it's
construction came in
$420,000.
under.
Right, which
So-
was putting all the signs up and all that kind of
And
effort.
the educational component and everything, right?
Right. And so where is that at right now? Do you know?
We are in the process of doing the final inspection on the project. Once that's done, then the construction, we sign off on the construction end, and then we're working with FHWA to go ahead and work on seeing if we can use that money. With Randy's got to get us a detailed plan on how he wants to spend it. And once we get that from this city, then we can go ahead and approve it or change it or modify it, do what we need to do to go ahead and get moving forward with the program.
Okay, very good.
So,
All right, thank you
Any
very
other
much. Make sure to fill out one of the, sir, please make sure. All right. Any other discussion on item 5F? Yes, sir.
Can I just ask one other question to the officer? Don't we have plenty of ordinances on the books to address issues like this? If a bicyclist is driving recklessly or, through traffic or things without specifically singling them out in an ordinance?
With my experience, I've found that it's never the bicyclist, the educated bicyclist that knows all the rules, all the laws, state and local. It's never an issue with them. It's always with the transient population that's all over downtown using bicycles. They always seem to not have a clue what the laws restrict them from doing something or another, and it's a safety issue. And I was thinking about the citation. It is a moving violation, so I doubt it's in the $30, $50 range. I think it's more in the hundreds.
And I guess I had the same kind of intuitive thought that you just mentioned, that transient folks, it's not that it's okay for anybody to break the law or endanger themselves or a motor vehicle operator, but if it's going to be $140 citation for somebody who already doesn't have anything, that seems a little...
Well, but the point is, it's still a violation today, correct? So, I mean, this doesn't say now we can write somebody. They can write it now anyway. This is just taking some state requirements and put it into the city ordinance.
If that's the case, then we were able to enforce that now.
Correct. That's my understanding.
Without this.
Am I right? So my understanding is, from Councilman Ryan, is that they would like us to consider putting it into city ordinance just to make it very clear to our city residents and to the people in our city that this is a violation. Very clearly spell it out, compared to, a general traffic issue of one lane, one vehicle at a time kind of thing. Am I right on all this, Councilor? Mr. Chai? Are we good?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we have any more talk on item 5F?
So, yeah, I have a question. So Oklahoma City Police can write a ticket for a state law? It doesn't have to be a city ordinance or city law?
It wouldn't be a ticket. It would actually be a misdemeanor charge. I've never seen it done in my 17 years, to be honest with you, but it is out there. And again, I think at this point, it's a safety.
Right.
It's a safety thing. Again, I never see experienced bike riders doing this, violating this. It's always the folks that don't know any better.
But the question that he's asking is, you can write it.
Yes.
It doesn't take a state trooper to write the ticket?
No.
Right. You can enforce any state law that may not be in city ordinance.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So when you look at it, it's something that's already there. If it's an education issue, that's the other piece that's going to be coming. So when you look at this, it's already not allowed in the state, which would be allowed in the city to do these two functions, which is to drive in between vehicles down a line, or to place yourself within 36 inches of a vehicle. That's already in state rules for vehicle operation. It seems like if once we get the education piece out there and motor vehicle operators know of the requirement, bicycle operators know of the requirement, and may fix that concern. Okay. Any other talk on item?
I guess then, changing the ordinance, we'll just put it out there. Then the police department it'll be on their radar, then I would assume it'll make the press, and then the bicyclists will become aware of it as well, because they're probably not aware of it now, that it's a state law. But so
that's what was mentioned is when you read the book on education on driving that you do for your driver's license, a very small piece, I think it's one sentence, talks about bicycles or a vehicle. And that's all it basically says in the education. So like we've talked about for years here on the traffic commission is we need a good education piece to get out there for everybody to know what's going on. When they see these share the road signs, what does that mean? What does the double arrow on the road mean? You know, those kind of things is where the issue is what we've always thought. So, you know, so here is a council member trying to have an ordinance put in to make it very clear what the state requirement is. So the issue is it necessary?
Yeah. Well, I don't really see it as being an anti-bike myself. I mean, I see it pro-safety, so I'm okay with voting for it. So however everybody else wants to go.
Okay. Any other discussion on item 5F? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5F from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner White. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Okay. Ma'am?
Since we only have a majority of 5 members, then the motion actually is needing to be a motion of all 5 to pass that.
Okay, so it's a majority of the 9 commissioners, not a majority of those present.
Yes.
Okay, so the item is not approved.
Well,
Correct. Hold on one second. Let me make sure that I understand. So,
it was not that way at a previous meeting. Just
well, see,
FYI.
that's
So whichever.
that question was asked previously. Several years ago, there was an issue that came up about voting, and it was, is it a majority of the people present or a majority of the commission, which would be 9? And the counsel we got at the time was of the members present, a majority vote of the members present, as long as you have a quorum. Well, and then this can be deferred. I mean, we could defer the approval of it until we get an official ruling.
I would say let's defer this for official ruling, please.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it would have to come back to us again to say, yes, that was a valid vote and it moves on, or it was an invalid vote and it was disapproved. I mean, do you just make the council on it and then we go on, or do we just need to see it again next month?
We have to see it again next month.
Well, I would think if you, after you do your research and you write your advice to us that it was a valid vote, well, then the vote stands. If you do your research and it shows that it's a majority of the commission, which would be all 5 in this situation, then the item would have been disapproved. And both of those could be determined by the time the minutes are read next meeting.
Yes.
So we would just be able to see in the minutes, and then at that time even get your counsel, get your written counsel. Does that sound good to you, ma'am?
Yes, it does.
Mr. Chai, that sound okay?
I would defer to council on that.
Okay, deal.
No, I think that'd be just.
Okay. Everybody understand that? That's
Yeah,
what we're gonna do is wait.
but the first part of what you said was correct, but the second part was not. It would not be disapproved. It would just be a non-vote. It would have to come back for us to re-vote. So it's not an up
So
or
the
down.
item would have to be represented.
Right.
To re-vote.
Right. So it would either be a yes vote or a no vote. It wouldn't be a yes or a no. You follow what I'm saying? Because you said it would be,
The item would not have been approved,
but it would have, well,
which is a,
no. It would have been voted as not approved. It would have been just not enough people to vote on it. So it would have to come back for us to vote.
no.
And I would
Let's just
suggest
make
that we
sure.
just do that anyway, just because I don't think everybody loves it, and I'd like to hear what the fine is anyway, and if we have a bigger group, maybe we can have a different outcome. So although we've already voted, but
You know, an option for you to
I could
consider,
move to-
you could rescind your action on your last vote and then there could be a motion to table this item to the next meeting, and then if you've got hopefully we'll have more of the membership of the commission present for the meeting, and then it can be discussed again.
And I'm fine with that.
So,
Well, seeing as you made the motion, we would defer to you then.
I'd like to move to rescind my earlier motion on this item and move to defer the item to the next meeting.
Okay, and we had a second from Commissioner White. Do you agree with that? Would your second? No?
That's fine, too.
Well, he had the original second.
Can we just reconsider that motion, and then we can vote to table to defer until next month or something? Would that be legal?
Yeah, I'm not really sure where we're at in the rules of order.
Okay.
I'll present our findings during the meetings at next month's meeting, and then we can go forward from there.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, so just so we're clear, if this was a valid vote to approve, it was 3-2, if this was a valid vote because of the majority of those present, then the item moves on and off we go, and we'll get some counsel from you on that. And if it was not a valid vote, or no, it was a valid vote, but if it did not approve the measure, then if Councilman Ryan would have wanted it back on to be readdressed, wouldn't it take 6 months? Isn't that how it works for things coming to the commission? That if something is not approved, I wouldn't say disapproved, if something is not approved, they would have to resubmit in 6 months?
this particular item was referred from the city council to
Okay.
get the commission's considered opinion
Okay.
to refer back to the city council.
So it could be
It could.
brought up again?
It could be brought up again.
Okay, so if it is a valid vote and the item is approved, then it moves on. And if it's not a valid vote, if we did require all five, then if the city council wanted to get a true vote, a yes or a no vote, because this was not really a no vote, it was just a disapproved of the approval. No, okay, I just want to make sure that we're clear on where it's at. Okay? All right, great. So that was item 5F. Undo my time. Okay, we go to comments from citizens. Any other comments from anybody? Okay, reports and other items from traffic commissioners, committee, staff, et cetera. Commissioner Witcher?
I mentioned this in our pre-meeting that it does seem like it should be considered, and I don't know who considers this, some public education, public awareness campaign on what parking is available in the downtown area. And I don't know how to initiate that, but I'm not sure that the public is generally aware of all the opportunities to park, and if we create a perception that there's no place to park, then we shoot ourselves in the foot with all the things we've done downtown. So if staff could help me on that, but with that between now and the next meeting, that would be great to find out how to move forward on something like that.
Okay, I think probably what we'd be looking at is be getting a presentation from representatives from COTPA to discuss what garages are available throughout the city,
and how they publicize that, how they make that known.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner White?
Nothing to report, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Truline?
Just to add to what you said, Commissioner Witcher, maybe Jane Jenkins at Downtown Oklahoma City, they certainly are all for that too. But no other comments from me, thank you.
Okay. And Commissioner George? Okay. Sir, do you have anything? Thanks for your help on those things. Counselor, anything?
Just our standard report at the end of your meeting, end of the agenda, talking about where we've installed yield signs and some parking controls that are allowed to staff by the administrative process. We had one yield sign that was installed on Cooper Avenue at Northwest 42nd Street, and we had, at the request of the police department, some no parking signs installed along northwest 135th Street, west of Clearbrook Road. And that is it. I don't have anything else to add.
All right, thank you very much. Any other items? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? We have a motion from Commissioner George, second.
Second.
Commissioner Schuline, can I have your votes, please? And we're out of here. Thank you.